Please don't hit me." The little girl pleaded with her stepmother until a millionaire appeared. On a quiet street in Boston, the Turner mansion stood tall, like a silent witness. From the outside, the tall glass windows caught the glow of dusk, and the carved wooden doors radiated elegance. Yet inside, every wall carried a strange chill. The long corridors echoed with drafts of wind, but not with the laughter of a child. Upstairs, in a narrow room where light struggled to enter, little Emily Turner sat curled up on a chair by the window. 6 years old, she clutched a worn-out teddy bear, its seams torn and fur ragged. It was the last gift her mother had left before she passed away. Emily's blue eyes shimmered with tears, holding a sadness far beyond her age. Standing in front of her was Victoria, her stepmother. Tall, sharply dressed, lips painted, her red dress wrapped tightly around her figure. Yet her eyes carried no warmth. Her voice cut through the air, cold and sharp. "You must learn to obey. If not, don't blame me for being strict." Emily whispered, her voice trembling, almost breaking into the silence. "Please, don't scold me anymore." Suddenly, the door swung open. A cold breeze rushed in, along with the tall figure of Michael Turner. An architect by profession, Michael was a man accustomed to endless blueprints and towering buildings across Boston. But in that moment, the weight of his career meant nothing. The rolled drawings slipped from his hands, leaving only the bouquet of flowers he had brought for his daughter. Red petals fell to the wooden floor, scattering like drops of blood on snow. Michael froze at the doorway. His eyes immediately found his daughter trembling in the corner. Her thin white dress clung to her small shoulders, her tiny arms clutching the teddy bear, her face soaked with tears. His voice cracked as he called, "Emily!" The little girl lifted her head, lips quivering. "I tried, Daddy. Please don't be angry with me." Her words pierced through Michael's heart like a knife. A heavy wave rose inside him, rage mixed with unbearable guilt. He had been consumed by work, leaving his child defenseless in the hands of cruelty. His footsteps thundered across the room, each one like a hammer. His voice, deep and commanding, broke the silence. "Victoria." He moved closer, kneeling beside his daughter. His voice softened, trembling but filled with warmth. "It's all right, sweetheart. Daddy's here. No one will hurt you again." Emily looked into his eyes. For the first time that day, her small shoulders stopped shaking. She leaned into his chest as if she had found a safe harbor after a storm. The air in the room grew heavy. Emily pressed her face against her father's chest, her small shoulders trembling, soft sobs breaking the silence. Michael lowered his head, his large hand gently stroking her hair. Yet in his eyes a different fire burned, the rage of a man who had been silent for too long. He turned toward Victoria. His voice rang out, deep and heavy, like a warning bell. "I'll ask you once more, what exactly is happening here?" Victoria crossed her arms, her lips curling into a cold smile. She walked slowly toward the window, gazing at the empty yard outside. "You're overreacting, Michael. The girl needs discipline. She must learn to be quiet when adults are speaking. I only want her to grow up properly." The words only fueled the fire. Michael clenched his fists, glancing back at Emily. Her blue eyes glistened with tears, filled with fear. His heart twisted painfully. He knelt down, lifting his daughter's chin gently, whispering with tender conviction, "You don't have to be afraid anymore. I believe in you. Do you hear me? You've done nothing wrong." Emily nodded hesitantly, tears still streaming down her face. In her father's arms, she clung to the only safe place she knew. Victoria let out a sharp, bitter laugh. Her eyes flashed with anger. "You're always like this, always taking her side. What about me? Am I not your wife? Do you ever think of my feelings? It's always the shadow of that dead woman. Even in this child, I see her." Her words cut through the air like knives. Michael drew in a long breath. The pain of losing his wife still lingered, but one thing was clear. His little girl did not deserve another ounce of cruelty. He straightened, his voice filling the room, each word striking like a hammer. "Enough, Victoria. I will not tolerate this anymore. Emily has already lost her mother. I will not let anyone turn her childhood into a life of fear." Emily lifted her head, her eyes shining with a fragile spark of hope. She whispered softly, almost as if trying to convince herself, "Daddy will protect me. Won't you?" Michael bent down, holding her tightly. "Yes, sweetheart, I promise." In that moment, through tears and trembling breaths, an invisible bond tightened between father and daughter. But for Victoria, that closeness only deepened her bitterness. She turned away, lips pressed tight, jealousy and resentment swirling around her like shadows. Outside, the sunset faded into darkness. The room sank into a heavy silence. Emily burrowed deeper into her father's embrace, while Michael cast a long, steady look at his wife, a look that carried not only anger, but a deep, cutting disappointment. He knew from this very moment, nothing in this house would ever be the same again. That night, the Turner mansion sank into silence. Only Emily's bedroom glowed faintly with a soft golden light. Michael sat by his daughter's bed, eyes fixed on her small face. His hand wrapped tightly around hers, listening to the faint sobs that escaped in her sleep. In her dream, Emily murmured, her voice broken, as if calling someone far away. "Mom, Mommy." Michael's heart clenched. He bent down, kissed her forehead, and silently promised never to let her face loneliness again. The night dragged on, but he never closed his eyes. By morning, sunlight slipped through the thick curtains, brushing Emily's sleepy face. She opened her eyes and gasped softly when she saw her father still sitting there. A tired but warm smile appeared on her lips. "Daddy, aren't you going to work today?" Michael squeezed her hand gently and replied firmly, "No, sweetheart. I'm here. I'll take you to school." The fear in Emily's eyes began to fade, replaced by a glimmer of hope. At the elementary school, the classroom buzzed with chatter. Children giggled, showing off drawings and new games they had learned. Emily sat quietly at the back, her hands stroking the ear of her old teddy bear. Her blue eyes wandered, but she dared not speak. Mrs. Collins, a woman in her 40s with a gentle smile, walked in holding a wooden guitar. "Good morning, children. Today we'll have music class. Who wants to share a talent?" Hands shot up excitedly. A boy recited a poem. A girl danced clumsily. Laughter filled the room. Only Emily remained silent, her head lowered. Beside her sat Sophie, a cheerful blonde girl with a bright smile. Sophie leaned over and whispered, "Emily, you should sing. I've heard you. You have such a beautiful voice." Emily blushed, shaking her head quickly. But curiosity spread among the others. A boy turned around and urged, "Yeah, Emily, sing something." Soon the whole class joined in. "Sing, Emily, sing!" Emily trembled all over. The memory of Victoria's threats echoed in her mind. But then she heard a softer voice deep inside, her mother's whisper. "Your voice is like an angel's. Never stop singing." Emily closed her eyes. Her small hand squeezed the teddy bear tight. She took a deep breath. And then her pure voice rose into the air. The sound filled the classroom, clear and delicate, like morning dew. The children froze, stunned. Even the most restless ones sat wide-eyed, holding their breath. Mrs. Collins stopped in her tracks, her eyes glistening with tears. Never had she heard such a voice, innocent yet full of yearning, from a child so young. When the song ended, silence lingered for a moment, and then applause burst out. Loud, sincere clapping, cheers calling Emily's name. Emily opened her eyes. For the first time in months, Her lips curved into a real smile, not one forced to please others, but one born from her heart. In that moment, it was as if a crack of light had pierced through the shadows of her small, fragile world. After music class that day, Mrs. Collins asked Emily to stay behind. She sat down, her eyes full of kindness. "Emily, you have a precious gift. Your voice is something truly special. Our school is hosting a talent show soon. Would you like to take part?" Emily flinched, clutching her teddy bear. I don't know." Mrs. Collins smiled gently, placing a hand on her shoulder. "Think about what makes you happiest. Sometimes we sing not just for ourselves, but for those we love." Emily lifted her gaze, then she gave a small nod. "I'll try." That afternoon, the schoolyard was livelier than usual. Parents gathered in small groups, chatting happily while waiting for their children. Michael arrived, his steps hurried, but his face carried an eager glow. He had already heard whispers from other parents that Emily had an extraordinary voice. When Emily ran out, clutching her teddy bear, Mrs. Collins followed with a warm smile. She stopped in front of Michael and said, "Mr. Turner, your daughter has a rare gift. Her voice is pure and deeply moving. You should encourage her to sing more often." Michael blinked in surprise, then his eyes lit up. He bent down, lifting Emily high into the air. "My little girl, you did so well. I'm so proud of you." Emily giggled, snuggling into his shoulder. The praise didn't end there. Another mother leaned closer and whispered, "Emily's voice is truly special. She'll have a bright future one day." Michael felt warmth spread through his chest, unlike anything he had known in a long time. He hugged Emily tighter, as if he could hold on to this newfound joy forever. But in the background, another pair of eyes watched. Victoria's. She stood at a distance, clutching her handbag tightly, her lips trembling as if holding back a storm. Each word of praise for Emily pierced straight into her heart, stirring memories long buried. Victoria remembered. As a teenage girl, she used to stand before a mirror, holding a hairbrush as a microphone, singing with innocent dreams. Her wish was simple, to stand on a stage, to sing with all her heart. But that dream had been crushed early. Her strict father had roared, "Singing is a useless pastime. Forget it and learn something worthwhile." Her sheets of music were torn apart, her fragile voice buried in tears. Victoria folded that dream away, hiding it deep inside, where it festered into a wound. Now, hearing others praise Emily, that wound ached sharply. The sight of the little girl with shining eyes, holding her teddy bear and singing like an angel, felt like seeing a version of herself that was never allowed to exist. Jealousy crept in like a sharp blade. She couldn't bear the thought that a child, not even her own flesh and blood, held the very gift she had once yearned for. When the three returned home, Michael was still brimming with excitement. He recounted the day's events with joy, showering Emily with compliments. He set the girl on the sofa, his smile radiant with pride. "Emily, you made the whole class go quiet with your singing. Do you know how amazing that is?" Emily lowered her head, cheeks blushing pink, lips pressed shyly together. Victoria stood nearby, forcing a smile. But inside, flames of envy churned. The more she saw Michael's affection for his daughter, the more she felt pushed to the margins. At last, when Michael stepped out to answer a phone call, Victoria leaned close to Emily. Her voice was low but icy. "Remember this, Emily. Don't think that singing will make your father love you more. It's nothing but childish nonsense. And if you ever dare sing in front of others again, you'll regret it." Emily froze, clutching her teddy bear tightly. In her clear blue eyes, the joy that had just begun to bloom was clouded over by fear. The day of the elementary school talent show arrived sooner than Emily expected. The long hallways buzzed with laughter and chatter. Children wore colorful costumes, rehearsing their moves and songs again and again. Teachers rushed back and forth, fixing scarves and reminding the students of their lines. Backstage, Emily sat on a small chair, her hands gripping her old teddy bear tightly. Her heart pounded so loudly it felt like everyone could hear it. Cold sweat formed on her young face. In her ears, Victoria's voice echoed, cold as darkness. "If you dare to sing in front of everyone, you'll regret it." Emily shivered. Each time she closed her eyes, the threat grew sharper. Fear wrapped around her fragile mind. She wanted to run, to disappear into the crowd, to escape it all. But then another voice rose, gentle, warm from a distant memory. Her mother's voice. "Your voice is a gift. Never let anyone take it away." Emily opened her eyes. She hugged her teddy tighter and drew in a long breath. Out in the auditorium, golden lights illuminated the crowded seats. Parents filled the rows, eager for the show to begin. Michael sat in the front row, holding a small bouquet of daisies and carnations. His face was tense, but his eyes glowed with faith. He was waiting only for his daughter's turn. A few rows back, Victoria sat upright in an elaborate black dress. Her face was stiff, lips trembling. She hadn't wanted to come, but curiosity, jealousy, and an unnameable fear had driven her here. Music began, and one performance followed another. Applause and cheers filled the air. Then the host announced, "Please welcome to the stage, first grader, Emily Turner." Backstage, Emily froze. Her feet felt glued to the floor. But when she looked up through the red velvet curtain, she saw her father watching her. Michael nodded softly, smiling with trust. An invisible strength flowed into her small heart. Emily stepped forward, each movement hesitant, as if walking on ice. The stage lights blinded her, making her blink rapidly. The music started. At first, her voice trembled, tiny and fragile. But within a few beats, it grew stronger, clearer. Emily let the melody carry her, pouring her soul into each note. The auditorium fell silent. Even the faintest whispers vanished. Emily's song held sorrow and hope, a child's cry reaching out to her late mother. Michael sat motionless, tears streaming down his cheeks. In that moment, he didn't just hear his daughter's voice, he felt his wife's presence, as though her spirit lived on inside the child. When the song ended, silence hung for a heartbeat. Then applause erupted, thunderous and overwhelming. The crowd rose to their feet, cheering her name. Emily bowed, her cheeks glowing pink with emotion. For the first time, she felt she was no longer small and afraid. She felt radiant. In the crowd, Victoria sat frozen. Her face had turned pale, her hands trembling. Her heart was torn between envy and a deeper pain. She saw her younger self, the girl who once dreamed of singing, silenced by force. Unable to bear it, Victoria leapt to her feet. The chair clattered against the floor, drawing glances from nearby parents. She didn't care. Her high heels struck the wooden floor loudly, drowning even the applause. The door slammed behind her, leaving the auditorium glowing with light. In the dim hallway, Victoria pressed her hands to her face. Tears streamed down, smudging her makeup. She whispered between sobs, "What have I done? I tried to destroy her dream, only because I lost mine." After the night of the talent show, the Turner mansion felt different. Emily fell asleep with a smile, clutching her teddy bear tight. Michael sat by her bed for a long time, gazing at her face glowing with new joy. Pride filled his heart. But elsewhere in the house, Victoria's heart was in chaos. She sat alone in a dark room, haunted by echoes of applause. Each memory of Emily's radiant face on stage stabbed her chest. Why could she do what I once longed for, but was never allowed? The next morning, while Michael drove Emily to school, Victoria lingered in the living room. A cold cup of coffee sat before her. Her fingers dug into the edge of the table, her mind torn apart. Inside her head, two voices battled. one sharp and jealous. That child will steal all of Michael's love. She is the shadow of his dead wife. If you don't erase her, you'll be left with nothing. The other, faint but firm. She's just a child. She sings because she loves, not to hurt you. How can you punish her for the dream you lost? Victoria buried her face in her hands, tears falling. She no longer knew who she was, the bitter woman or the girl who once wept for her stolen dream. The doorbell broke the silence. She opened it to find Richard, her tall, well-dressed cousin, his eyes as sharp as blades. His smirk was cold calculation. "Hello, Victoria," he said, setting a leather briefcase on the table. "I heard your stepdaughter had the whole school clapping. Don't you see the danger?" Victoria frowned. "Danger? She's just a child." "No," Richard cut in smoothly. "A child with talent grows into a woman who takes everything. The estate, Michael's heart. And you'll be nothing but an outsider." He pulled out a thick folder, sliding it toward her. "This contract guarantees your share. Sign it, and you'll never have to worry about Michael leaving everything to her. This is your one chance." Victoria stared at the papers. Her hand shook. Inside, the voices screamed louder. "Sign! Protect yourself! That girl is not your blood. No, you've hurt her enough. You made her cry, you made her tremble. If you continue, you'll kill the very dream you once cherished. Don't become the cruel parent your father was." A sob escaped her. Memories returned. Her younger self, holding a hairbrush as a microphone, singing with innocent joy, only for the door to burst open and her father's voice to roar. "Singing is useless. Forget it." Sheets of music ripped, her voice smothered in tears. Now Emily had sung that stolen dream, reigniting a flame inside her. But instead of hope, Victoria had only felt shame and envy. Her trembling hand touched the pen. At that moment, the front door opened. Michael appeared, tall and imposing. His eyes blazed with fury at the sight of Richard and the papers. "What is going on here?" His voice cracked like thunder. Richard smirked, shrugging. "Just a little talk about the future. You're naive, Michael. That girl will take it all. Victoria is only being careful." Michael advanced, voice like steel. "Get out of my house, now!" Emily, just home, stood frozen on the stairs. She hugged her teddy bear, eyes wide as she watched. In her heart, a flicker of trust glowed. "Daddy will protect me." Victoria gasped, looking from her husband to the folder, then to Emily on the stairs. The child's clear eyes pierced through the walls she had built for years. With a cry, Victoria snatched the folder, ripping it into shreds and scattering them across the floor. "Enough, Richard! I won't be your puppet anymore." Richard cursed, his face dark with rage. He slammed his briefcase onto a chair, then stormed out. The door slammed shut. Silence fell. Shredded papers drifted like ashes of betrayal. Michael looked at Victoria, his eyes blazing with anger, yet deep within, a fragile spark of hope flickered. On the stairs, Emily trembled, but her gaze shone with something new. For the first time, she saw her stepmother choose to stand with her, not against her. After the storm, the Turner mansion sank into a heavy silence. Torn papers still littered the floor, remnants of a fierce inner battle. Michael said nothing more to Victoria that night. He simply held Emily's hand, led her to her room, and stayed by her side until she drifted into sleep. Yet in his heart, a fragile spark of hope flickered. He had seen Victoria reject Richard even in desperation. It was a first step, small but meaningful. The next morning, sunlight streamed through heavy curtains, casting golden streaks across the wooden floor. Emily rubbed her eyes awake, surprised to see her father still sitting by her bed, his face weary but his gaze tender. "Daddy, you didn't go to work?" she asked sleepily. Michael smiled, gently brushing her messy hair. today I want to stay home, take you to school, and have breakfast together. It's been too long since I've done that." Emily's eyes lit up. She hugged his neck tightly and whispered, "I love that." Around noon, while Emily was in class, Michael headed to the kitchen. The housekeeper's eyes widened at the sight of her employer in a crisp shirt, wielding a wooden spoon. "Mr. Turner, let me cook for you," she offered. Michael shook his head, struggling to flip an egg. One side was already burnt, smoke curling upward. He grimaced, but persisted. "No, this time I want to do it myself. Emily should see that her father can cook, even if badly." The kitchen, once so silent, filled with the smell of scorched butter and clattering pans. Yet sunlight streamed through the window, warming the counter, making the room feel alive again. By late afternoon, Emily came home and rushed straight to the kitchen. Michael was just setting down a messy plate of fried eggs. "You really cook this, Daddy?" she asked, eyes wide. Michael scratched his head, pretending to be serious. "Yes, and you're required to taste it. But be careful. It may be crunchier than usual." Emily took a small bite, then burst into giggles. "Oh, it's so salty, but I love it, because you made it." Her bright laughter stunned Michael into silence, a simple happiness swelling inside him. At that moment, Victoria entered. Gone were the elaborate dresses and heavy makeup. She wore a plain sweater, her hair tied back. She froze at the sight of father and daughter laughing together, her expression flickering with unease before softening. She drew a breath and spoke quietly. I'd like to try baking. It's been years since I was in the kitchen. Emily, will you help me?" The room fell silent. Emily hugged her teddy bear tighter, her eyes uncertain. She looked at her father, searching for safety. Michael gave her a reassuring nod and smile. "Go ahead, sweetheart. It'll be all right." After a moment's hesitation, Emily stepped toward Victoria. At the counter, Victoria awkwardly held an egg. Emily's tiny hand rested on hers as they cracked it together. The shell broke, spilling a little onto the counter. Emily giggled, dimples showing. "It's okay, Mom. Let's try again." The word Mom slipped out unexpectedly, freezing them both. Victoria's lips trembled, her eyes glistening. It had been so long since she'd heard that word directed at her. The sound pierced her heart, painful yet warming, and she managed only a choked nod. "Yes, let's try again." By evening, the Turner kitchen glowed with golden light. On the table sat a crooked cake, but it filled the air with sweetness. Emily squealed with delight, flour dusting her cheeks. Michael stood in the doorway, quietly watching. In that moment, the kitchen, once tense and cold, echoed with laughter. The steps were small, clumsy, but Michael knew. This was the beginning of something real, the fragile start of a true family. That night, the Turner home rested in rare quiet. Emily slept soundly in her little bed, clutching her teddy bear close. Her room breathed peace, a sharp contrast to the weight waiting downstairs. Victoria descended the stairs slowly, her footsteps hesitant. The warm glow of the lamp stretched her shadow thin across the wall. Her chest was heavy with words, yet they caught in her throat. Michael sat in the living room, the soft light of a desk lamp falling over his stern features. A book lay open in his lap, though his gaze was far away. At the sound of steps, he looked up. Victoria drew a shaky breath. "Michael, we need to talk." He nodded, setting the book aside. His eyes no longer burned with fury, but they held firm gravity. "I'm listening." Victoria sat across from him, fingers twisting together. She bowed her head, forcing the words out. "I was wrong, so many times. I let jealousy blind me. I hurt Emily, made her afraid, and nothing can excuse that." Her voice broke, eyes wet. "But Michael, deep down, I never hated her. I saw my own broken past in her, and instead of healing, I lashed out." Michael was silent for a long moment. He studied her tearful eyes, seeing for the first time Victoria stripped of her pride. "I remember," Michael said softly, "why I chose you. Not because I needed a replacement for my wife, but because you were kind once. Do you remember that day in the park, when Emily fell, her knee bleeding? You were the one who rushed to her first. You held her, calmed her tears." Surprise flickered across Victoria's face. The memory returned, vivid. Tiny Emily sobbing, and she had scooped her up, tearing her handkerchief to wipe the blood, whispering, "Don't be afraid, I'm here." Her lips trembled. I forgot how much I once loved her." Michael sighed, lowering his rough hands. "I was wrong too, Victoria. I buried myself in work, leaving you and Emily alone. I thought providing was enough, but I forgot that a family needs more than money." Their eyes met, no longer sharp with anger. Slowly, Michael reached across, taking her hand. Then he leaned forward, pressing his lips to hers. It was not a kiss of passion, but one of forgiveness, a kiss that swept away the dust of resentment, binding together what had nearly broken. A soft creak came from the stairs. Both turned. Emily stood there in her pajamas, teddy bear in hand, eyes still heavy with sleep. I was thirsty," she whispered. Victoria looked at the little girl, and something stirred, no longer envy but a deep yearning to love. She extended her hand, her voice trembling. "Come here, sweetheart." Emily hesitated, then walked forward, climbing onto the sofa between them. Michael wrapped his arms around both, and after a pause, Victoria embraced the child too. She drew a deep breath, whispering into Emily's ear, "I'm sorry, Emily. I promise I'll change. I promise I'll love you. Please, forgive me." Emily looked up, her blue eyes shimmering, and smiled innocently. "I love you too, Mom." Victoria still held Emily tightly, tears streaming endlessly down her cheeks. She tried to hide them, but Emily's small hand reached up. Gently, the little girl wiped away the tears, her touch innocent and tender. "Don't cry, Mom," Emily whispered, her voice clear and soft. "I want to see you smile." Those simple words broke something inside Victoria's heart. She nodded faintly, her lips trembling as she forced a smile, awkward yet sincere. Michael watched the scene, a warmth rising in his chest. His family was beginning to heal. Emily lifted her gaze, her blue eyes sparkling. Suddenly remembering something important, she exclaimed, "Oh, I almost forgot. Mrs. Collins invited me to sing at the school concert. She said I should sing again. Daddy? Mommy? Will you come?" Her innocent question lit up the heavy room like sunlight breaking through clouds. Michael chuckled softly, ruffling her hair. "Of course, sweetheart. I'll be there." Victoria hesitated, her breath caught. Then she looked into Emily's hopeful eyes. Drawing a deep breath, she nodded gently. "I'll come too, I promise." Emily hugged them both tightly, her voice bubbling with joy. "Then we'll go together, as a family." That night, the invisible walls between them crumbled. No more accusations, no more distance. In the quiet living room, they sat close, sharing warmth they thought was long lost. For the first time in years, the Turner home was filled with something simple, yet most precious: peace. The day of the concert arrived, and the Turner household felt different. No heavy silence, only warm anticipation. That morning, Emily sat before the mirror, clutching her teddy bear, staring nervously at her closet. "I don't know what to wear," she whispered. Victoria stood in the doorway, watching quietly. After a moment of hesitation, she stepped forward and opened the wardrobe. Her fingers brushed over the tiny dresses, her eyes softer than ever before. At last, she pulled out a pure white dress trimmed with delicate lace. In the morning light, the fabric glowed like mist. With a faint smile, she placed it in Emily's hands. "This one?" I think you'll look like a little angel." Emily looked up in surprise. For a moment she hesitated, then nodded shyly. "Thank you, Mom." Behind them, Michael watched. Relief and pride flickered in his eyes. This was the moment he had longed for. Victoria reaching out with tenderness. That evening, the city hall glowed with lights. Outside, parents and children bustled in. Inside, red velvet seats filled quickly, the air alive with excitement. Michael and Victoria sat together in the front row. Backstage, Emily's small hands trembled. Mrs. Collins bent down with a reassuring smile. "Darling, just sing as you did last night for your mom and dad. Your voice is the gift." Emily drew a deep breath, clutching her teddy bear. She remembered Victoria's gentle smile that morning as she chose the dress. Trust bloomed within her. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Emily Turner, first grade." The spotlight flared. Emily stepped onto the stage, her white dress flowing like petals. Her heart pounded, but when she lifted her gaze, she saw Michael and Victoria watching. Michael gave a firm nod. Victoria pressed a hand to her chest, smiling through tears. Her clear voice rang out. The melody swelled, her song pure as moonlight. Emily sang not just notes, but her whole heart, for her father, her mother, for the family that had found its warmth again. The hall stilled, every whisper faded. Michael's tears fell freely. Victoria's cheeks glistened, her sobs born not of jealousy, but of joy. At the song's peak, Emily looked toward her stepmother. "I sing for my daddy, for my mommy, for our family." The words pierced every soul. Victoria covered her face, shoulders trembling. As the final note faded, silence held for a heartbeat, then erupted into thunderous applause. The crowd rose to its feet, chanting Emily's name. Emily bowed, her smile radiant. The white dress shimmered under the lights like a blessing. Michael stood, clapping until his palms stung. Victoria rose too, her hands trembling but firm. In her eyes, pride burned openly at last. Emily ran from the stage, leaping into her father's arms. Michael held her tight, voice choked. "You made me so proud, Emily." Then Emily turned, hesitating only a moment before hugging Victoria. Her stepmother clutched her close, whispering through tears, "Thank you for letting me be here, for letting me love you." That night, as the family left the hall, the city sky sparkled with stars. Emily held her father's hand in one and her mother's hand in the other, skipping lightly as though the whole world was her stage. "I'm so happy," she whispered, her voice innocent yet powerful. Michael squeezed her hand. Victoria bent down, kissing the top of Emily's hair. For the first time, the three of them walked not as broken fragments, but as one. Michael and Victoria shared a warm glance. No words were needed. They both knew the concert wasn't just Emily's stage. It was theirs too, a stage where forgiveness, love, and a new beginning were born.